The cafe fell silent as Mark knelt before the young woman, tears streaming down both their faces. No one expected a chance encounter on a rainy Tuesday to change so many lives forever. But sometimes, the most profound connections begin with the simplest acts of kindness. If this story touches your heart in the first few minutes, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that remind us of the extraordinary humanity that exists in our everyday world. It was raining the day Mark Jenkins first noticed her. Not the gentle, romantic kind of rain that falls in movies, but the harsh, unforgiving downpour that soaks through clothing and chills to the bone. Mark had ducked into Rosie's Café on Main Street, his 7-year-old daughter Emma's hand clutched tightly in his own. They were both drenched, Emma's pigtails dripping onto the worn linoleum floor as they stood in the entrance, water pooling at their feet. "Daddy, I'm cold," Emma whispered, her small frame shivering despite the warmth of the cafe. "I know, sweetheart. Let's find a table and get something hot to drink," Mark replied, scanning the crowded space for an empty spot. The cafe was packed with others seeking refuge from the storm, the windows fogged with condensation, the air thick with the scent of coffee and cinnamon. That's when he saw her, sitting alone at a small table near the back, her crutches leaning against the wall beside her. She couldn't have been more than 25, with chestnut hair pulled back in a messy bun and eyes that seemed focused on something far beyond the book open in front of her. What caught Mark's attention wasn't the empty chair across from her, or even the single leg visible beneath the table. It was the untouched mug of coffee that had clearly gone cold, and the profound loneliness that seemed to radiate from her like a physical force. Mark had known that kind of loneliness. He'd lived with it for 3 years, ever since his wife Sarah had died suddenly from an aneurysm, leaving him to raise Emma alone. He recognized it in the woman's posture, in the way she absently traced the rim of her mug with one finger, in the slight downward curve of her mouth. "Daddy, can we sit there?" Emma asked, pointing to the empty table next to the woman's. "I like her hair." Before Mark could respond, Emma had already broken free from his grip and was approaching the woman's table with the fearless curiosity that only children possess. "Hi, I'm Emma. I'm 7. Why do you have sticks?" she asked, pointing to the crutches. "Emma." Mark hurried after her, mortified. "I'm so sorry," he said to the woman, whose startled expression quickly softened into a smile. "It's okay," she replied, her voice gentle as she addressed Emma. "They're called crutches. I use them to help me walk because I only have one leg." Emma's eyes widened with interest rather than pity. "What happened to your other leg?" Mark was about to intervene again when the woman laughed, a genuine, warm sound that transformed her face entirely. "I was born with a condition that made my leg not grow properly, so when I was about your age, the doctors had to remove it," she explained with remarkable candor. "Did it hurt?" Emma asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Sometimes it did. But I'm okay now," the woman assured her, then glanced up at Mark with a smile that made his heart skip a beat. "I'm Lily, by the way." "Mark," he replied, extending his hand. "And I apologize again for my daughter's lack of filter." "Please, don't apologize. It's refreshing, actually. Most adults just stare when they think I'm not looking, or worse, pretend not to notice at all." Lily gestured to the empty chairs at her table. "Would you like to join me? This storm doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon." That rainy afternoon in Rosie's Café marked the beginning of something neither Mark nor Lily could have anticipated. As Emma colored on a paper placemat, Mark and Lily talked, really talked, in a way Mark hadn't experienced since Sarah died. Lily was an art therapist who worked with children at the local hospital. She loved classic films, hated cilantro, and had a cat named Fitzgerald after her favorite author. Mark found himself telling her about his job as a high school English teacher, about the challenges of raising Emma alone, and even about Sarah, topics he usually avoided with new acquaintances. There was something about Lily that made the words flow easily, her attentive gaze never wavering, her responses thoughtful and genuine. By the time the rain stopped, 3 hours had passed, and Emma had fallen asleep with her head on the table, crayon still clutched in her small hand. "I should get her home," Mark said reluctantly, gathering their things. "Of course," Lily replied, reaching for her crutches. "It was really nice meeting you both." Mark hesitated, then took out his phone. "Would it be okay if I got your number? Maybe we could do this again sometime? Emma really enjoyed meeting you, and I." He trailed off, suddenly unsure. Lily's smile was radiant as she took his phone and entered her number. "I'd like that very much." As Mark carried a sleeping Emma to the car, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a lightness in his chest, a sense of possibility. He didn't know then how significant that chance meeting would become, how deeply Lily would impact their lives, or the challenges they would face together. He only knew that for the first time since Sarah died, he was looking forward to tomorrow. The following week saw Mark and Lily's relationship develop with cautious optimism. Their second meeting was at a park, where Emma insisted on showing Lily how she could swing all by herself. Mark watched as Lily cheered Emma on, her crutches set aside as she sat on a bench, her face tilted toward the sun. There was a quiet strength about her that drew him in, a resilience that spoke of battles fought and won. It wasn't until their fourth meeting, a trip to the Children's Museum, that Mark noticed the stares. He'd been so caught up in getting to know Lily that he hadn't paid attention to how others reacted to her. But now he saw the sidelong glances, heard the hushed whispers, noticed how some parents pulled their curious children away when they pointed at Lily's prosthetic leg, visible beneath her shorts. Lily seemed unfazed, but Mark felt a protective anger rise within him. He was about to confront a particularly obvious gawker when Lily placed a hand on his arm. "Don't," she said softly. "It's not worth it." "But it's not right," Mark insisted, his voice low so Emma wouldn't hear as she examined a display of butterflies. "No, it's not," Lily agreed. "But getting angry doesn't change anything. Trust me, I've tried that approach." She smiled wryly. "Besides, the kids are just curious. It's the parents who teach them to see difference as something scary or sad." Later, as they shared ice cream cones on a bench outside the museum, Lily told Mark about growing up with proximal femoral focal deficiency, a rare condition that had left her with a malformed leg that was eventually amputated when she was 6. "The hardest part wasn't the physical challenges," she explained, watching Emma chase pigeons nearby. "It was feeling like I was always the girl with one leg, instead of just Lily. That's why I became an art therapist. I wanted to help kids see themselves as whole, regardless of what their bodies look like or what they've been through." Mark found himself in awe of her perspective, of the way she had transformed her own struggles into a source of compassion for others. It made his own grief over Sarah seem self-indulgent by comparison, though Lily was quick to correct him when he voiced this thought. "Grief isn't a competition, Mark," she said gently. "What you've been through with losing Sarah, raising Emma alone, that takes incredible strength too." It was the first time anyone had framed his situation that way, as a demonstration of strength rather than an object of pity. Mark felt something shift inside him, a weight he'd been carrying for 3 years beginning to lighten. As summer turned to fall, Lily became a regular presence in Mark and Emma's life. She helped Emma with an art project for school, introduced Mark to her favorite obscure films, and even attended a parent-teacher potluck at his side, charming his colleagues with her wit and warmth. Mark found himself falling for her, not despite her disability, but alongside it, as one facet of the remarkable woman she was. But not everyone saw it that way. Mark's mother-in-law, Patricia, had been a pillar of support after Sarah's death, often watching Emma when Mark had to work late. Her reaction to Lily was unexpected and painful. "Don't you think Emma needs stability right now?" Patricia asked during one of her visits, after Emma had gone to bed. "Getting involved with someone like Lily, it just seems like you're adding complications to an already difficult situation." "Someone like Lily?" Mark repeated, his voice tight. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Patricia sighed, her expression a mixture of concern and condescension. "Mark, be realistic. She's disabled. That comes with challenges. Medical issues, limitations. Is that really what you want to bring into Emma's life? Into your life?" Mark felt a cold anger settle in his chest. "Patricia, I appreciate everything you've done for us, but Lily is one of the most capable, compassionate people I've ever met. Her disability doesn't define her, and it certainly doesn't make her a burden." "I'm just thinking of Emma," Patricia insisted. "Children can be cruel. What if she gets teased because her potential stepmother has one leg? Then that would be an opportunity to teach Emma about standing up for the people she loves," Mark replied firmly. "And about recognizing true worth beyond physical appearances." Patricia left that night with tension hanging between them, and Mark found himself questioning whether he was being selfish. Was he thinking enough about how a relationship with Lily might affect Emma? The doubt gnawed at him, even as he continued to see Lily, even as his feelings for her deepened. The turning point came unexpectedly, on a crisp October afternoon. Mark had picked Emma up from school to find her unusually quiet, her normally chatty demeanor replaced by silence and downcast eyes. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked as they drove home. Emma stared out the window, her small face reflected in the glass. "Maddie said Lily is a freak because she only has one leg. She said you're only being nice to her because you feel sorry for her." Mark felt his hands tighten on the steering wheel, a surge of protective fury rising within him. "Emma, look at me," he said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "What Maddie said is not only unkind, it's wrong. Lily is not a freak. She's a person who happens to have one leg instead of two, but that doesn't make her any less wonderful or important." "I know," Emma said quietly. "I told Maddie that Lily is the best drawer in the whole world and she helps sick kids feel better and she makes you laugh again. But Maddie just laughed at me." Mark pulled the car over, turned in his seat to face his daughter. "Emma, I am so proud of you for standing up for Lily. That was a brave and kind thing to do. Lily makes you happy, doesn't she, Daddy?" Emma asked, her eyes serious. Mark nodded, surprised by his daughter's perceptiveness. "Yes, she does. She makes me happy too," Emma declared. "And Mommy would like her because Mommy always said we should be kind to everyone." Mark felt tears prick at his eyes. "Yes, she did say that. So can Lily come over for dinner tonight? I want to show her my new drawings." That evening, as Lily sat at their kitchen table, helping Emma create elaborate paper snowflakes while Mark prepared dinner, he realized something profound. His mother-in-law was wrong. Lily wasn't a complication, she was a completion. The three of them fit together in a way that felt natural and right, as if the universe had conspired to bring them together on that rainy day in Rosie's Café. Later, after Emma was asleep, Mark told Lily about his conversation with Emma, about Patricia's concerns, about his own moments of doubt. "I would understand if this is too much," he said, gesturing vaguely to encompass his life, his baggage, the complexities of being a single father still navigating grief. Lily was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing patterns on the couch between them. "When I was growing up," she finally said, "I used to dream about being normal. I thought if I just had two legs, everything would be easier. People wouldn't stare, I could wear any shoes I wanted, I could run without thinking about it." She looked up at him, her eyes clear and direct. "But as I got older, I realized something important. There's no such thing as a normal life. Everyone has their challenges, their losses, their complications. What matters is finding people who don't try to fix you or change you, but who see you completely and love you anyway." She reached for his hand, her touch warm and steady. "I see you, Mark. I see your grief and your joy, your struggles and your strength. I see the amazing father you are to Emma. And none of it scares me." Mark felt something break open inside him, a dam of emotion he'd been holding back for too long. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he admitted, the words both terrifying and liberating. Lily's smile was like sunrise. I think I'm already there. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a promise of possibilities. When they pulled apart, Mark felt as though he'd finally come home after a long, difficult journey. The months that followed weren't without challenges. Patricia remained skeptical, though she softened somewhat after seeing Emma's attachment to Lily. There were still stares and comments when they went out together, moments of ignorance that tested Mark's patience and Lily's resilience. And there were practical considerations too, Mark learning to help Lily navigate spaces that weren't always accessible, understanding the phantom pain that sometimes kept her awake at night, adapting their activities to accommodate her needs without making her feel limited. But there were far more moments of joy, Lily teaching Emma to paint with watercolors on rainy afternoons, the three of them building a snowman in the backyard, Lily directing operations from the porch when the snow became too difficult for her to navigate, quiet evenings when Emma was asleep and they talked for hours about everything and nothing, building the foundation of something lasting. 6 months after they met, Mark took Lily back to Rosie's Café, to the same table where Emma had first approached her with her innocent question about crutches. I have something to ask you, Mark said, reaching across the table for her hand. Lily's eyes widened as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Mark. Before I open this, he said, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart, I want you to know something. I'm not asking this question despite your disability, or because I think I'm some kind of hero for loving you. I'm asking because you've shown me that love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone who makes you want to be better, who brings light back into your life when you thought the darkness would last forever. He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. Lily Chen, will you marry me? Will you help me raise Emma, and maybe someday, if you want, have more children with me? Will you build a life with us? The cafe fell silent as Mark knelt before the young woman, tears streaming down both their faces. No one expected a chance encounter on a rainy Tuesday to change so many lives forever. But sometimes, the most profound connections begin with the simplest acts of kindness. Lily's yes was barely audible through her tears, but the kiss that followed spoke volumes. The cafe erupted in applause, strangers caught up in the moment of pure joy unfolding before them. What no one in the cafe knew was the full story, how Mark had spent months working with Emma to plan the perfect proposal, how Lily had transformed not just their lives but the lives of countless children at the hospital where she worked, how their relationship had inspired Mark to start a program at his high school addressing bullying and promoting acceptance of differences. They didn't know that Lily had recently been featured in a local magazine for her work with pediatric amputees, using art therapy to help them process their trauma and embrace their new bodies. They didn't know that Mark had stood up at a school board meeting to advocate for better accessibility in district buildings after seeing Lily struggle to attend a school function for Emma. They didn't know that Emma had proudly told her class during show and tell that her soon-to-be stepmom was the strongest, bravest person in the whole world because she doesn't let having one leg stop her from doing anything. The wedding took place the following spring, in a small garden ceremony with Emma as the flower girl. Patricia, who had finally come around after seeing the profound positive impact Lily had on both Mark and Emma, helped with the arrangements. Lily wore a tea-length dress that didn't hide her prosthetic leg, a deliberate choice that reflected her.